All right. Hello and welcome to the Pitch Perfect 101 workshop. My name is Amanda Cherry, and I am an author of contemporary and historical urban fantasy, space opera, and the occasional role play game. And as it turns out, pitching is my superpower. I have no real clue how it came to be that way. The best guess any of us have been able to come up with is that my first career was in musical theater, my second was in public relations, and my third was in TV and film, largely as a commercial performer. So what that did was give me the skill to learn and then deliver lines to a live audience when the pressure is on, to craft branding and message and distill things into soundbite. I was then able to study up close what a commercial is, which is basically a 30-second miniature film with a powerful message, although that message happens to be capitalism. And then combining that with my skill at writing, I landed in this place where I seem to always get pitches accepted. I sold my first book on an elevator pitch. I sold my second book on a pitch. I most recently had a pitch accepted for a serious bucket list assignment and was invited to write for StarTrek.com, which it still blows my mind that I had a byline on Star Trek. Someone needs to call 13-year-old me and like shake her very excitedly. Most of the time, I give this workshop one-on-one. I occasionally do it to small groups like this at conventions, usually with a fee. So today's class, getting this free of charge, is exciting for me. I like being able to make this accessible without accidentally saying that the price for an author's time and expertise should be $0.00. That said, this will only be available for about 2 weeks here on the QuaranCon YouTube channel before it comes back down, so that I can once again go about this business. However, for any of you that choose to join me to do this workshop interactively, which I will get to in a moment, I will be sure that you have access to me free of charge for follow-up questions and other work on your pitches to make sure that you are in the best trim you can be going into your next writers conference. Now, what do I mean by joining me? Unlike most of our things here at QuaranCon, where I am over here on Zoom and you are over here on YouTube, I am going to now get Tay to pop into the YouTube chat and post the Zoom link so that you can join me here in my office virtually, so that we can work on your pitches specifically in an interactive way where I can talk to you and you can talk to me. I am not going to require you to turn your camera on, but I would like to see your face if at all possible. So pretty please click that Zoom link that is right there appearing in YouTube and come join the conversation over here on Zoom. Because we are at a 20-second delay, you on YouTube are hearing things while I am just over here all by myself still. I do want to point out why having a tight pitch package is important. It is not just to be sure that the person on the other side of the table knows that you prepared, that you honor the time and energy they're putting into a meeting with time and energy that you put in ahead of time. But also, agents and editors are made of human beings. I know sometimes it seems otherwise, but when you sit down across from them, yes, they are all professionals and they will give you the professional courtesy of what attention they have to offer. But we have no idea what is happening with them in that moment. Maybe they're cold. Maybe they're having a hot flash. Maybe their sock is digging into their pinky toe in a weird and distracting and uncomfortable way. Maybe they've got a little indigestion happening. Maybe they're hungry. Maybe they're thirsty. Maybe the last presenter who sat across from them told them about a book that is exactly a thing they have been fantasizing about for months or years, and it's going to be hard for the next book to grab their attention. Or maybe the book that sat down ahead of you was the worst self-congratulatory lit thick professor dating his student hot mess that they've ever heard, and it's going to be hard for the next author to remind them there is good in this business. So what you want out of a pitch package is the ability to bring that agent, that editor, that person into your moment immediately. You want to be able to captivate them. You want to be able to have their attention completely on you and their mind off of anything that might have otherwise been distracting them. So anyone coming? It is fine if you don't want to participate in this way. I can teach the workshop to an empty room, I promise. I see you over there on YouTube. But it is quite all right if you are timid. That link is going to stay up so that if any of you change your minds here in the next few minutes, you are welcome to pop in and I will let you into the room. This is the part where if we were all sitting together in a convention center, I would ask you what you write. Probably the most likely question you will get when you say you are an author, when you are present with other authors in a room, is what kind of book do you write? Do you write sci-fi? Do you write fantasy, like high fantasy, elves and orcs and dwarves and magic and eyes and towers and goblins and gremlins? And do you write contemporary or urban fantasy? Do you, oh, hey, we have a person. Do you, there you are, hi. Do you write supernatural? Do you write steampunk or cyberpunk or any of those other cool punk things? Do you write horror? By the way, I have had clients that write horror and I will absolutely buy your book, but I'm not going to read it because the scariest thing I ever read was the back cover copy to Caitlin Starling's debut. I just can't handle scary books. I am a wimp that way. Do you write romance? Do you write contemporary? Do you write literary fic? And do you write for adults? Do you write YA? You're very kind, Margot. Thank you. Margot has joined me, by the way. She popped over to Zoom so that I am not speaking to an empty room, which is fantastic. So you need to know the genre of your work and the age category of your work. I made a big mistake. I spent many months querying what I thought was a middle grade book, only to discover what I'd actually written was a chapter book and that it was never going anywhere in the middle grade space. So be very clear as to what you have that you are there to pitch. And if you are one of those people who is like, but my book crosses genre, but my book defies genre, this is not the moment. At this stage, pick one or two, right? Sci-fi horror. I don't know if any of you are involved in Twitter discourse. There was a whole thing a couple of weeks ago about sci-fi horror. Sci-fi horror is a genre. Supernatural romance is a big subgenre. And boy, did it have a moment here a few years ago with sparkling vampires. And also, I suppose, think there were werewolves in those books, right? Urban fantasy horror, sci-fi romance is a thing. So don't be afraid to understand when you are crossing genres, but don't try to be some sort of groundbreaking, genre busting, newfangled something in this moment. You need to understand what you have written for a couple of reasons. One of which is to know what agents and editors you're going to want to pitch to. Because if you don't know what you're selling and you try to give it to someone who doesn't buy that, then you've wasted everybody's time. You may have an amazing fantasy book that happens to be set in space. So you're pitching it as sci-fi because it has space and robots in it. But what you've just done is this editor that really only wants hard sci-fi or military sci-fi is not hearing a sci-fi book. They're hearing a space fantasy, which, by the way, is a thing, and it's phenomenal. I read them. Space opera, space fantasy is a genre that sells. But if you're not pitching an editor that's going to buy that, it doesn't matter if you've written the best space fantasy they're going to hear all year. They're not going to buy space fantasy. So you really need to know what you have, both to know who you're trying to sell it to, and also to tell that person that you know exactly which shelf in Barnes & Noble your book belongs on. Some of the best news in writing is that bookstores are big and online bookstores are endless. There is room for all of our books. And any author who tries to gatekeep the business and says that there is not room for your story in this business is either not a very good author or not a very good person, because there is absolutely room for all of our work in the very gigantic bookstores that exist, whether that be Amazon or bookshop.org or the physical store down the street from me. Bookstores are huge, and we can all go there together. And now I will turn the page. I should show you my very adult pitch workshop notebook I have there. So yes, once you have found your fit, you know where you're going to sit on the shelf, you know which agents and editors are acquiring the kinds of things that you have written. You then need to be prepared with the second most asked question. You know that you write sci-fi or fantasy or urban fantasy. But the question that you're going to get asked at the bar, at writers' conferences in the hall, waiting to get in when everyone is there to pitch a book, and after your book has been sold and published and is on a shelf and you are there to promote it, the question you're going to get asked the most is, what's your book about? That is a question that you need to be able to answer in one breath. Some people say in the space of a tweet, but I think that's a little too short. You need to be able to answer the question, what's your book about, in such a way as to prompt the follow-up question of tell me more. I literally was at another author's reading about 1.5 years ago. Someone found out I was an author. It was right after my debut came out. So I only had the one book at the time. And I got asked, what's your book about? And my answer when it comes to my debut is, a billionaire supervillain has lost her magic powers and will stop at nothing to get them back. And I kid you not, 3 people pulled out their phones and bought my book at someone else's reading because I was ready with that answer. And that is not the only time that's happened. It's just the only time that's happened at someone else's book party. Everyone there already had her book, by the way. It's not like I was taking sales from anybody. I don't do that. So I want you to take a moment and think about the book that you are considering sending out into the world within the next 12 to 24 months and figure out how you would answer that question. The easiest way to come up with a one breath answer, which quite frankly is, as far as I am concerned, the most important thing that you need to be able to do, again, because someone's going to ask you in the elevator and you never know if the person standing behind you is an agent who would be like, can we set up a meeting? Because that has also happened. You need to be able to give us enough information that we want more in a really tight package. The services over here, horror in space is totally thing. Yes, it is. It's terrifying. My best advice for how to create this one breath answer to the what's your book about question is to introduce your main character or ensemble and then tell me what's driving the A plot. If you have written a novel, you likely have an A plot and a B plot and a C plot and maybe even some other plot threads. If you've written a novella, you may only have an A plot, which, by the way, is fine. You don't need a million subplots if you are writing in shorter form factors. But for the purposes of a novel, you'll want to introduce your main character or ensemble and then tell us what drives the A plot. A farm boy from the outer rim of the galaxy, a pirate with a heart of gold, a plucky band of adventurers, twins separated at birth, 2 estranged former cellmates. You don't need to use the character's name, as you heard none of those examples did, because that name, unless you're pitching IP, which if you're pitching IP, go ahead and use a character's name. If you're pitching a Superman book, you can say Superman because everyone in the room is going to know who Superman is. But when George Lucas first pitched Star Wars, no one knew who Luke Skywalker was. So, okay, what I have here in the Zoom chat that you all can't see from my sole Zoom participant who isn't showing me her face, but her name is Sarah, and she is apparently very good at this already. A meek princess must control a bloodthirsty saber. I get that, and I already want more. That absolutely meets the criteria for what you want in a one breath answer. Like I am not going to be able to improve on that. That is bravo, well done, Sarah Kay, because that is exactly what I'm looking for here. And if you say that out loud in an elevator, oh, she says she's blushing, I think she did that really well. Well done. I usually have to give people like 10 minutes and they struggle with it, and you're good at this. Turns out Sarah Kay's got talent, y'all. Maybe she'll be teaching this next year. No, I'm really pleased because I don't always see something this good this quickly. So yes, absolutely that. She has told me who this person is and what is driving the A plot. Something that we do as fantasy authors, we tend to do a lot of world building. Some of us, if you're plotting a series in particular, may have a world Bible that's as long as your book. And something we are very tempted to do is try to shove a lot of world building into this one answer because we've spent hundreds of hours figuring out what's going on in our universe and how science works and how gravity works and how magic works and what the Elf King did in the Orc War and how the dragons are angry. And that's a lot of work. And we tend to want to put that in that one breath answer because we want our very impressive world building to be a wow factor. The problem is that, and if there were a whole bunch of you in a room together, I make you repeat this after me. The setting is not the story. The setting is not the story. I don't know if anyone saw the movie Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow. They made a gorgeous sort of steampunk meets diesel punk, aesthetically incredible, clever world, and basically forgot to write a story. So they made this movie that was gorgeous, and I highly recommend watching it on mute with your favorite music playing in the background because there's just nothing compelling about the story. You can, however, bake some world building in to your one breath answer. And I'm going to use Sarah's example alongside my own because she did so well here. A meek princess. We know this is a world with acknowledged royalty, and she did not use a name of a royal family that is generally known in the real world. So this is probably fantasy. And we know that in the general realm of fantasy tropes, we sort of know what a princess means. A meek princess must control a bloodthirsty saber. We now know there's magic in this world. Otherwise, this forged weapon wouldn't have agency, wouldn't need the blood of whoever it is that it wants the blood of. That now I want to know more because I want to know why this sword is thirsty. And when we get to the longer form thing, I hope that she sticks with me because I want to know. I'm ready to pick up this book and read the back cover, which is exactly what this one breath answer is for. So she has told me that this is fantasy. She's told me this is a fantasy princess, which brings with it certain expectations. And it's actually fine if the text subverts some of those, as long as it turns out she really is a princess. which I don't think anyone's going to lie to me about that. We know there's magic. We know there's sword play. So she has inadvertently or very deliberately baked in pieces of her world building to this statement. My initial one, a billionaire supervillain has lost her magic powers and will stop at nothing to get them back. We know this is a world with billionaires in it, so it's reasonably contemporary, real world. Supervillain implies that there are heroes and villains, good guys and bad guys. This is probably a superhero story. Lost her magic, meaning that magic exists and that she had some and now she doesn't. She's kind of mad about it and she'll stop at nothing to get them back. That's enough to say that she is a ruthless bitch, and I love her for it. So you can, these one breath answers are almost like writing a poem. You absolutely can put parts of your world building into them. And when we get to the next page in the notebook, there is room for more of that. But those of you who have these amazing world Bibles, those of you who have done world building, like I can't even, world building is not my superpower. It is indeed my kryptonite. That's why my first two books were IP. It was basically like getting paid to write fan fiction. Highly recommended. Nice work if you can get it. Those of you who have done this work, and maybe one of you watching today, I will never, ever underestimate the people in my workshops, by the way. I've got too many people who have gone on to get agents that took this workshop to ever underestimate one of you. Maybe one of you is the next Nora Jemisin. Maybe one of you is sitting on the next Broken Earth. Maybe one of you is sitting on the next Harry Potter. Please, let's get a new wizard school thing so that we can pay less attention to that one for a little while. Let that amazing world building skill. Yes, N.K. Jemisin used to be a blogger before she started publishing. She very well could have sat in one of these workshops, and I would never have known until her book was published just how amazing she is. And like I said, one of you watching right now, you could have a bestseller in 3 years. That absolutely is within the realm of possibility. I mean, 3 years is a little quick for a publishing timeline, let's be real here, because publishing moves at the speed of the glaciers. But I am never going to presume that you are not the next great best-selling author. That world building, that extra thing, let that be what takes the request for a partial into a request for a full. What we're working on right now is to get that person sitting across the table to want more. And if they want more, and they know, and you know that what you're sitting on is world building, the likes of which is going to blow their minds, how great are you going to feel sending off that sample? A+, no better feeling. Sarah says, it makes me wonder what other bloggers I read will become Hugo Award-winning New York Times bestselling authors. Seriously, it could be any one of you. I met Tracy Dion when she was working on Legendborn, when we were both part of the Looking for Leia family. And now look at where she is. She's been sitting on that list for, I forget how many weeks now. Every best-selling author out there was once an unagented, pre-published writer toiling in obscurity. It is not outside the realm of possibility that every single one of you watching right now is going to sell the book that you're here to think about and go on to sell 100,000 copies. There is no doubt in my mind that every last one of you could do that. I'm still waiting. But my last book, the book that came out in February, was ranked number 6 in all tie-in fiction, and like I think it got to number 9 in all historical fantasy in the world, in all of Amazon for a couple of days. And that blew my mind. I never thought I would have like a single digit ranking in something. And it was is out of this world. You too can have a very successful book. The thing we are here to do today is to, where did I put that? I've skipped pages. Is to get the agents and the editors that you hope to make your partners in that endeavor ready to receive what you want to give them. We want to make them eager to know what is contained within the covers of your manuscript. Now I'm gonna take a sip of this. The next stage of things. You sit down, you say, hi, my name is Sarah, and I am here with my epic fantasy wherein a meek princess must control a bloodthirsty saber. Already, you have been upfront, you have been articulate, and you have been brief. And you have intrigued this person. And now they want to know more, and they will literally probably light up because you didn't come in and haw and and act nervous, because you have rehearsed that line, by the way, in your bathroom mirror 50 times until you can say it in your sleep, under the influence of Benadryl, tired, groggy, late at night, early in the morning. You don't even have to think about it. It just happens. And they will say, oh, please tell me more. And now you get to do your whole spiel. This is the same kind of thing that will sell books when you do book events later on. Again, I am presuming that everyone in this room is going to get an agent, they're going to sell this book, and eventually they're going to go on a book tour. You're going to have a little spiel to tell everyone in the audience what they are here to learn about. I am going to read you mine from my debut. After I sort of give you the formula. You can listen for the formula as I read it, and then I'm going to give you a few minutes to, I want Sarah to wow me on this one too. No pressure. But basically what you want is a few lines about your main character or ensemble. Give me a little more than you gave me in that one breath answer. You're then going to want a few sentences about the A plot, about the bloodthirsty saber, about the trying to overthrow the government, or looking to reunite their parents, or stopping an evil plot of some stripe by the bad guys. You're then going to want 1 to 2 sentences about your B plot. What else is going on in these characters' lives? Or are there some other characters that are working at odds to them that are going to also be interesting to the reader that we're going to meet along the way? Then you're going to want a line or two, something that brings in the C plot. And if there's a D plot, if you've got more than 4 plots in a single book, bless you. You also must be a good Scrivener user. I can't do it. I never go in a novel beyond 3 or 4. My next book, my next book, 2 books from now, the Ruby Killingsworth sequel, is liable to possibly weave more threads than that, and I'm only a little bit terrified. I have ordered extra Post-it notes. So I'm going to give you my long spiel from my debut, and as you listen, sort of, you'll see what I'm talking about when I say a little about the character, a little about the A plot, et cetera, et cetera. By day, Ruby Killingsworth is a billionaire music executive. By night, she's a magic-wielding supervillain. Her worst day came in Cobalt City Christmas Harder. Yes, I just advertised another book in which I have a story. You can do that if they're connected. Her worst day came in Cobalt City Christmas Harder when a ritual gone wrong robbed her of the ability to use her powers. And now she will stop at nothing to get them back. With the help of her old pal Loki, yes, that Loki, and the band of magical misfits he sends to help out, Ruby sets out to unlock the secrets of an ancient African gem, which proves easier said than done. She's going about this while also working to seduce her neighbor, fellow billionaire CEO Jacob Stevens, also known as Stardust, the city's preeminent superhero, also known as the city's least eligible man. And did I mention he hates magic? And as though that's not enough, Ruby must also contend with the attentions of a certain Lyle Prather, notorious former reality TV personality and recently inaugurated president of the United States. Sound familiar? If you like heroes, villains, magic, romance, and badass women who are not afraid to tell you who's boss, I think you'll enjoy Rights and Desires. So that's the sales spiel, and that is the kind of thing you are going to want to give to an agent or editor after you've given them the one breath answer that tells them what all to expect. Notice I'm not giving away the ending. Sometimes you are asked for a summary in a query letter. When an agent wants a summary, they do want to know the ending. But that is not what we advertise when we are pitching a book. They have to read the manuscript to get the ending. All we want out of this is the request. We want them, if you can get them to request a full right then and there at the table, you have just won publishing. Whether or not they make an offer after they've read it, anyone who reads your full is huge. So giving them a little bit about the A plot and a little bit about the B plot and a little bit about the C plot is enough to make them hopefully want the full. But even if they only request a partial, again, you've now got aces in the hole in that your world building is still sitting there in the background being super powerful. You have just scratched the surface of who this character is, and your sample is going to wow them. All you got to do is get those pages in their hand. And if they want to know what happens, they have to make that request. If they request a summary with the sample, yes, absolutely. Tell them how it ends. Let them know. If you're writing romance, absolutely make sure, by the way, in that summary, this is a tiny bit of a non sequitur, but it's important right now. If you are writing romance or other genre / romance, do be sure in that query letter in the summary section that you point out the happily ever after or happily for now criteria. Otherwise, it is not a romance. It's fine, by the way, if you have written a fantasy with romantic elements. But if there's not a happily ever after or a happy for now, don't call it a romance, or at least don't pitch it to people who are looking for romance, because without that element, they're not going to want it. That's a whole conversation we've been having lately. And by the way, happily ever after and happy for now, they do have to be together. My big question recently was, but what if they decide that they're happier not together, but like casual, and that makes them happy? And you're like, no, that's not a romance. So by the way, I fixed that manuscript. It's better now. So I want to give you all, again, one more. Pam, you can totally hop on without your camera on. Sarah has her camera off. She's even muted. Like, she's just chatting me in the text chat. I'm going to give you all a couple of minutes. I will watch the YouTube chat as well. I'm going to give you all a couple of minutes, couple sentences about your character, a moment with your A plot, a moment with your B plot, a moment with your C plot, just to see what you come up with. If you don't want to share, that's fine. I'm not going to make you. But if you do want to share, I would love to hear it, and I would love to share with the group. I am going to spend those minutes. I had a second book come out in February, and I haven't actually broken it down this way. So I'm going to spend a few minutes working on one for the book that just came out. I haven't had to promote it anywhere because we're all stuck at home like this. So I too will be using this time wisely. I would love to play music, but I understand that YouTube would look unkindly on that if we play music we don't have license to. So instead, it's going to get really quiet. Sorry about that. But yeah, we'll take about 2 minutes or so. And when I start talking again, hopefully we'll have some text to paste in places. On your mark, it's at work. arrived. Hello, Pam.
Hiya. I'm so unprepared for this, by the way, so I'm just kind of going to hover.
That's okay. That's okay. I'm giving us a few more seconds to work on this whole long form pitch thing. I'm only into the A plot right now because apparently when I'm writing with pen, I write really slowly. So, but
Yeah,
also
no,
I had to
I've
go
got
with
my.
like crazy colors.
Oh, wow. See, I actually like the fact that you're using pen and paper because I love it. I love pen and paper.
It for
Oops.
whatever reason it flows a little differently, and sometimes that's just the way the thing needs to happen.
Sorry, I was just muting YouTube. I just heard myself in the background. That was horrifying.
Oh my, yeah, I've had this whole computer with the YouTube on it muted since Thursday because it unmuted itself at the top of my first panel, and I was like, oh hey,
It's like
that's
great.
really exciting.
Oh, dear. So I've got like my query letter in front of me if anybody does need stuff to contribute or whatever, but I'm quite happy to observe.
Oh, I'm totally gonna want to hear it. So just
Oh
like
God.
be prepared.
I don't know if you do. 'Cause up to now, nobody else has. It's pretty much universally like, no thanks.
Well, that's what we're here for. We're here to, oh, perfect. We are here to polish these pitching materials so that it is exactly what it needs to be for the next time you're ready to send it out in the world. Okay. Sarah Kay is about to post into the Zoom chat that like all of you, the rest of you are missing out on seeing our really super fabulous Zoom chat over here. A very rough and totally unpolished draft, which fantastic. We're here to create new fabulous things. Okay, I am reading this and I'm digging it. The story sounds good. Maybe it's just that I'm a boat owner and I'm all about like when the weather gets involved. Okay. All right. Sarah has been amazing. It is hard to choose which plot threads to mention. Literally where I try to go, and I am just getting started, like I said, on doing one for my second book, which has been in bookstores for 2 months at this point. You think I would have thought ahead. I didn't. The pitch for this book, by the way, this book was sold on a pitch. It went straight from elevator pitch to, and here is a beat by beat 5,000 word treatment of what I would like to write for you, Mr. IP owner. So I didn't actually have to do this step in order to get the book sold. So that's why I'm missing it. But yes, it is absolutely difficult to figure out what goes where and how to put enough in there to make people want more without like going all day long. Right now what I see is there is you've got your, Sarah, give me a thumbs up if it's okay if I read your version out loud. Okay, so I'm gonna read Sarah's version out loud, and then we've got about 10 minutes with which to monkey with it and make it even more fantastic. So what I want to say is that Sarah has created a good story. At least what I'm seeing here says to me that what Sarah has written is something of quality and that deserves to be read by agents and editors and people that could take it to the next level and take it to market. So yay for giving me a character and a concept that I can get behind. That helps. Here is Sarah's exact words. A princess of an imperial family which had been driven into exile on an island feels that she cannot be the princess her family needs. Then she ends up with a saber, which compels her to attack people. Only she can safely handle the saber. In order to contain the saber, she's isolated on an islet, then whisked away by a typhoon to the mainland, which is under the invaders' control. She finds a mentor to train her, but the training might kill her, leaving the saber loose to wreak havoc. So what I see here is she is a princess of an exiled family. I would say that you don't need the on an island necessarily. That is one of those world building things that I think will become clear later. And as long as that's going to be in your sample, it's not. So you could say a princess from an imperial family in exile, period. The what number daughter of an exiled imperial family feels that she cannot be the princess her family needs, is the way I would word that. The third daughter of an imperial family in exile feels she cannot be the princess her family needs. Then you want, yes, bringing up the bloodthirsty saber is the great next thing to do. I would say through what circumstance? Through magic, through evil, by accident, from the lady in the lake, whatever caused it, instead of just she ends up with this saber. You can just be through luck, through magic, through dragons, through theft, or together they fight crime. She comes into possession of a bloodthirsty, you said bloodthirsty before, that's a good, powerful word. A bloodthirsty saber. Oh, she doesn't understand how she got the saber. Through a circumstance unknown even to her, she comes into possession of a bloodthirsty saber that only she can control. Because the fact that I love that that's a mystery, actually, and the fact that she has to be in control of this thing or else putting that there is also really good. You say in order to contain the saber, she is isolated on the island. Let us know in that sentence, does she go into further isolation, or does her family send her away? Or if let us know if she has agency in isolating herself and the saber. Talking about she is whisked away by a typhoon. I love that. Whisked away by a typhoon is a phrase you need to keep in this forever because it's a great turn of phrase. When she is whisked away by a typhoon and ends up on the mainland, she must find a way to learn to wield the saber. But yeah. So yeah, the message is that she technically agrees to this isolation, but she might not have had a chance to say no. So yeah, when forced into isolation on a deserted inlet, unbeknownst to her family, she is whisked away by a typhoon to the mainland, which is under an invader's control. And then yeah, that I would say when you talk about mentor, give me something more than she finds a mentor. Engaging the services of a martial arts expert. Is he a blacksmith? Is he a knight? Is he a member of her family's court? Give me something personal about the mentor. She sets out to train to wield this sword carefully, responsibly. Oh, yes. Under the guidance of a sword maiden serving the goddess of swords, she endeavors to learn to control it fully if the training doesn't kill her first. See, every detail you give me here makes me want to read this book more, which is fantastic. Really, it's about spinning it into a tidier package. And because what you gave me was a first draft, yes. A sword maiden serving the goddess of swords. Okay, I too would serve the goddess of swords because that's fierce. So yes, under the tutelage of a sword maiden serving the goddess of swords, she endeavors to learn the ways of this blade if the training doesn't kill her first. Or the next sentence, if the training doesn't kill her first, she will be able to use the sword to X end. And that way you could, and then you leave it open like, well, we think the training's not gonna kill her because that would make for a really short book. But you never know. I don't know if anyone's read Kill the Farm Boy, but spoiler alert, the farm boy dies in like the second chapter. The farm boy dies really early in the book, and then the rest of the adventuring party has to go on without him. But giving it that, you can say, you know, if the training doesn't kill her, then she can set out to do X. Hopefully, it's something like restore the imperial family to power and boot the invader from the mainland, but I don't know. That's my guess. Under the tutelage of a sword maiden who serves the goddess of swords, she endeavors to learn to control the saber more than it controls her. So that can give that the saber is trying to one ring her into doing bad things. I love it. I really do want to read this book, by the way. I dig it. And then yes, if the training doesn't kill her first, she can use the sword to defeat the invader and restore her family's place of honor. Or not. If her family's being mean to her, then maybe she's just gonna like claim the throne for herself and be a badass princess. And that too would be a good, there are lots of ways to end this story that would be satisfying and delightful. But I kind of want to see her family sad because, oh, brilliant. Yes. It says what happens with the imperial family is a subject for sequels, which actually gives me, we have to end this in about 3 minutes. So yes, if the training doesn't kill her first, she can use the sword to X goal, whatever she's thinking she's going to try to use the sword for. And then you can close it with an agent, with an editor, with someone you're sitting across the table with at this stage. This book can stand alone, but it is the first in a planned series. Do be prepared to give a 1 to 2 sentence big picture overview of book 2 and or book 3 and or book 4, however many books you're planning. so that the person across the table from you knows what to ask for when they're asking for more pages. What you have here already, once you've tuned that up, and again, this is going to be recorded on YouTube for a couple of weeks if you want to take any of my suggestions. Oh, you're so welcome, Sarah. You're very good at this because you have the concepts down, and I hope you can take all of these words and go and find the right agents to read this and bring this to market. And I have no idea where in the world you are, but I will come to your book launch party as long as the pandemic is over, which again, publishing moves at the speed of glaciers and tortoises. So that should be a possible thing. Sarah says that she's planning to self-publish. Well, awesome. Then yes, you will be using this at book launch parties and conventions and indie author nights and big fun Zoom things like this. Also, I go like this. My first book came out from a small press. And so I was sort of able to see behind the publishing curtain more than most trad pub authors do. And holy, that's a lot of work, y'all. Self-published authors are doing the job of like 16 people. So I am in awe of all of you who are self-publishing people in a huge way. I could not do it. Super impressed. We are coming up on our time. So I am going to sign off in a moment and say goodbye. Thank you, especially to Sarah and to Pam for popping into Zoom and engaging with me and engaging in this material. Thank you to those of you who also watched on YouTube. I do hope this was helpful for you. I am author at thegingervillain.com. Again, I am perfectly willing to exchange a few emails with you all, set up a one-on-one Zoom call with anyone who is here today, free of charge, because it is an accessibility thing that I am offering only through QuaranCon. Again, this workshop will be available to be rewatched and notes taken from it, etc., for about the next 2 weeks. It may be a little longer than that if I forget to push a button, but that's pretty much the plan. As always, I'm available on Twitter at Manda the Ginger. Feel free to tweet me and ask questions and tell me about your successes. I especially want to know when you have a good reply to a query, when you get requests, when you eventually self-publish your book. I want to know all of these things, and I will boost your accomplishments because people who come to my workshops are some of the coolest, most creative, most talented people I've ever met in my life. And it is only a matter of time until everyone has a spot on that bookshelf. Thank you so much. I am Amanda Cherry, and good night.
All right, you are offline.